The air in San Diego always smelled like freedom. But that summer, it carried something heavier, a secret that clung to me like salt on skin. I was 19, a sophomore at UC San Diego, chasing dreams of marine biology while drowning in the chaos of my own heart. My stepbrother, Caleb, had just moved into our family's cramped beachside apartment, and his presence was a storm I hadn't braced for. I'd known Caleb for 3 years, ever since Mom married his dad, a retired Navy officer with a laugh as loud as his expectations. Caleb was 21, a brooding enigma with eyes like the Pacific Deep, turbulent and impossible to read. He'd been discharged from the military for reasons he never shared, and now he was back, sleeping on the pull-out couch in our living room, his duffel bag still packed like he might bolt any second. That first week, he barely spoke, his silence a wall I couldn't climb. It was a Saturday when it all began. I was sprawled on my bed, textbooks scattered, when Mom called us to the kitchen. "Family meeting," she said, her voice tight. Caleb slouched in, his black hoodie swallowing his frame, and sat across from me. Our parents announced they were leaving for a month-long retreat in Arizona, some marriage rekindling nonsense. We'd be alone, just the two of us, in this apartment that already felt too small. "Keep an eye on each other," Dad said, clapping Caleb's shoulder. Caleb flinched, and I caught its smallest crack in his armor. That night, I lay awake, listening to the creak of the couch as he shifted restlessly. I wanted to ask what haunted him, but the words stuck in my throat. Instead, I whispered to the dark, "I'm here, Caleb, if you need me." The next morning, I found him on the balcony, staring at the ocean. "You don't have to babysit me, Ethan," he muttered, not meeting my eyes. His voice was rough, like he'd been screaming in his sleep. I shrugged, pretending it didn't sting. "Not babysitting, just existing." He snorted, but there was a flicker in his gaze, something like gratitude, or maybe desperation. San Diego's summer buzzed around us, the boardwalk alive with skateboarders, street performers, and tourists. I dragged Caleb to a coffee shop on Ocean Beach, hoping to thaw his frost. He ordered black coffee, no sugar, and sat by the window, his fingers drumming a nervous rhythm. "Why do you care?" he asked suddenly, his eyes piercing mine. I fumbled, my heart racing. "Because you're family," I said, but the word felt too small for what I meant. That night, I caught him crying in the bathroom, the door ajar. He didn't see me, but I saw him, shoulders shaking, hands gripping the sink. I backed away, my chest tight. Caleb was breaking, and I was too scared to reach out. But I made a promise to myself I'd get through to him, no matter how cold he got. The apartment became a battlefield of silences. Caleb avoided me, leaving early for mysterious errands and returning late, smelling faintly of cigarette smoke. I threw myself into my studies, but my mind kept drifting to him, his sharp jawline, the way his hands trembled when he thought no one was watching. I wasn't just worried. I was something else, something I couldn't name yet. One afternoon, I convinced him to join me at Mission Beach. The sun blazed, and the boardwalk pulsed with life. I rented a surfboard, hoping to coax a smile from him. "Come on, you're a Navy brat. You must know how to surf," I teased. He rolled his eyes but followed me to the water. For a moment, he was almost human, laughing as a wave knocked me off my board, his grin bright and unguarded. But when I splashed him, his face shuddered, and he waded back to shore. That night, I found a crumpled photo in his duffel bag while looking for a charger. It was him and another guy, both in military gear, arms slung around each other, smiling under a desert sky. On the back, in faded ink, Caleb and Ryan. Kandahar, 2023. My stomach twisted. Who was Ryan? Why did Caleb keep this photo like a secret? I confronted him the next morning. "Who's Ryan?" I asked, holding up the photo. His face went pale, then hard. "None of your business," He snapped, snatching it back. But his hands shook, and his eyes were wet. Caleb, talk to me, I pleaded. He stormed out, slamming the door. I didn't see him for 2 days. Panic clawed at me. I scoured the boardwalk, the pier, every place I thought he might go. Finally, I found him at a dive bar in Pacific Beach, nursing a beer. You can't just disappear, I said, my voice breaking. He looked at me, his eyes raw. You don't get it, Ethan. You don't know what I've lost. Then tell me, I said, sitting beside him. He didn't answer, but he didn't leave either. We sat in silence, the bar's neon lights flickering over his face. I wanted to touch his hand, to tell him I saw his pain, but I didn't. Not yet. The apartment felt emptier after that night. Caleb started talking more, but it was surface-level comments about the weather, the Padres' losing streak. I took what I could get, but I was greedy for more. I wanted to know him, not just the shell he showed the world. One evening, we ended up at a bonfire party with my college friends. The beach glowed under the firelight, and laughter mixed with the crash of waves. Caleb stood apart, nursing a soda, his eyes distant. My friend Mia, tipsy and bold, dragged him into a game of truth or dare. Truth, he said, his voice flat. Mia grinned. Ever been in love? The air stilled. Caleb's jaw tightened, and I braced for him to shut down. But then he spoke, low and steady. Yeah, once. My heart lurched. Mia pressed. Who was he? Caleb's eyes flicked to me, then away. Someone I lost, he said, and walked off into the dark. I found him by the water, skipping stones. You don't have to hide from me, I said. He laughed, bitter. You think you want the truth, Ethan. It's ugly. I stepped closer, close enough to feel the heat of his anger. Try me. He told me about Ryan, his voice breaking like waves. Ryan was his best friend in the Marines, his confidant, his everything. They'd fallen in love in secret, stealing moments in the chaos of war. But Ryan died in an ambush, and Caleb blamed himself. I should have been there, he said, tears streaming. I should have saved him. I didn't know what to say, so I hugged him. He stiffened, then collapsed against me, sobbing. My heart pounded, not just from his pain, but from the warmth of him, the way he fit against me. I pushed the thought away, ashamed. He was hurting, and I was falling. After that night, something shifted. Caleb started opening up small things, like how he hated ketchup or loved jazz. I clung to every detail, building a map of him in my mind. But the closer we got, the more I felt this pull, this ache I couldn't ignore. I was falling for my stepbrother, and it terrified me. One night, we ended up at a thrift store on Garnet Avenue, killing time. The dressing rooms were tiny, and we squeezed into one together, laughing over a hideous plaid jacket. Our shoulders brushed, and the air changed. He looked at me, his eyes searching, and my breath caught. Without a word, he sank to his knees, his hands resting on my hips. Time stopped. I wanted to pull him up, to kiss him, to break every rule. But I froze, and he stood, muttering, "Sorry," before bolting. I chased him to the beach, my heart hammering. "Caleb, wait." He stopped, his back to me. "This is wrong," he said, his voice raw. "You're my brother." "Stepbrother," I corrected, stepping closer. "And I don't care." He turned, his eyes blazing. "You should. I'm broken, Ethan. I'll ruin you." I kissed him. It was reckless, desperate, and perfect. His lips were soft, hesitant, then hungry. We pulled back, breathless, the world spinning. "We can't," he whispered. But he didn't let go. We didn't talk about the kiss, but it lived between us, electric and dangerous. Caleb started staying out late again, avoiding me. I threw myself into classes, But every wave I studied reminded me of him beautiful, unpredictable, destructive. One night, I found him on the balcony, drunk and shaking. "I don't deserve you," he slurred. "I don't deserve anything." I knelt beside him, my hands on his face. "You're enough, Caleb. You're enough." He kissed me again, fierce and broken, and we stumbled to my room, a tangle of need and fear. The next morning, he was gone. A note on the counter read, "I'm sorry. I can't do this." Panic seized me. I called his phone, but it went to voicemail. I searched everywhere: bars, beaches, even the VA hospital. Nothing. Days passed, each one heavier than the last. I felt him slipping away, his breaking point closer than ever. Then, late one night, my phone buzzed. It was Caleb, his voice small. "I'm at the pier. I need you." I found him at the end of the Ocean Beach pier, staring into the black water. His face was gaunt, his eyes hollow. I almost jumped. He said, his voice barely audible. My heart stopped. I grabbed his hand, pulling him back. "You're not alone," I said, tears burning. "I'm here." He told me everything: how Ryan's death had shattered him, how he'd been discharged for conduct unbecoming after their relationship was discovered. The shame, the guilt, the fear of loving again. "I don't want to hurt you," he said. I held him, the wind whipping around us. "Then don't run." We went home, and for the first time, he slept in my bed, not out of desire but need. I held him as he cried, his walls crumbling. I knew then I loved him not just as a stepbrother, but as the man who'd survived hell and still shone. Our parents returned, oblivious to the storm we'd weathered. Caleb started therapy, and I went with him sometimes, holding his hand through the hard days. We didn't hide our love, but we didn't flaunt it either. It was ours, fragile and fierce. One evening, we walked the beach, the sunset painting the sky in hues of hope. "I'm scared," Caleb admitted, his hand in mine. "But I want this. Us." I smiled, my heart full. "Me too." We weren't perfect. There were fights, doubts, moments when his past clawed at him. But we faced them together, building something stronger than fear. Caleb wasn't broken, was healing. And so was I. In San Diego's endless summer, we found our beginning, not in a fitting room, but in the quiet moments where love whispered louder than pain.